Hello and welcome to Altenew's November 2025 release video hop. Since this is a video hop, you have $300 in total prizes to win if you enter. Today in my video, I'm going to be playing with the Botanical Plate stencil set, which comes with a coordinated die, as well as the Coral Charm Peony Craft of Flower set. I'm pairing this with the new inks that are being released: Sage Garden, Moonlit Twilight, as well as Earth Tones. I am going to be using the microblending brush number 10, and my white card panel here measures 4 inches by 5 and a quarter. Placing it on my sticky mat and placing the first stencil, I begin with the lightest ink color from Moonlit Twilight, and I start ink blending through the stencil to add a nice light lilac-y tone to my flowers. So once I am happy with that, I am then going to move ahead and repeat the same process with stencil number 2, and this particular stencil brings in the base for our leaves. So here I'm using the lightest green from the Sage Garden set and adding that color through the stencil. Now stencil number 3 adds a detail layer to the flowers, and so I'm moving to the second color from the Moonlit Twilight ink set to color in the flower centers. Now the stencil number 4 brings in details to our leaves, so I'm moving to the second green from the same Sage Garden set to add in detail to my leaves. Now with that, the basic coloring of these flowers is done, and at this stage I just want to show you how you can use that coordinated die to die cut all of these cluster elements and create a card using that. However, I'm moving forward with stencil 5 to add the horizontal lines, and I'm using the lightest color from Earth Tones. Now all of these ink colors are going to be listed in the description box below. Now with the fifth stencil layer done, I can come in with the sixth stencil, which adds the vertical lines to create the plate pattern. However, for this card today, I am not going to do that. So that's a look at the plate pattern. I am skipping this and just sticking to the horizontal lines and moving ahead to my Coral Peony Charm layers to ink blend those. So I have all the flower petal layers laid out on my 9 by 12 sticky mat, and I'm using the Moonlit Twilight inks. However, I just start with the the second color in this set to lay out the base color. So for this flower, I am skipping the lightest color, starting with the second color in this ink family, laying out a base color to my petals that need to be laid out on the top, moving to the third color, the Dreamy Periwinkle, just to add a little depth and shading to these petals, and making that my base color for the first two petals that form the base of the flower. So that way I am able to bring in shading, making sure that the base of the flower, the base petals basically, are darker and the upper petals are lighter. So I am just using the same microblending brush because I use that with these ink color families. So I'm continuing that, and I bring in the darkest color, the Twilight Sky, to add more depth and shading to darken the base layers, as well as add a little shading to the top layers just at the edges, so it creates realistic looking petals. So with that, I then have my petals ink blended and complete. Now I'm using the Olive Grove and Mossy Granite, the shades from Sage Dreams, like the last two ink colors, to add color to my leaves. For the flower centers, I use earth tones, and I added the first two ink colors from that set just to create a distinction between those two flower centers. With that, it's very easy to assemble the layer following the fantastic keyhole system. Since I had laid out the petals in the order following the number system, I just have to pick and glue them one on top of the other, and it just makes my life easy when I do that just following the packaging guide. Now adding a few folds to the petals, I then move to the flower centers and glue those layers down. Like you notice, I just apply glue near the keyhole because that just makes sure that my flower is adhered but gives depth and dimension to my petals. With that, the entire flower is now almost completely assembled. I'm onto my last layer and I think this has come out so well. Now, to my base, I'm going to use the fine liner pens from Altenew, the 0.03 number, and just add a little doodling to create a whimsical looking background. So I'm just adding a few lines, basically roughly outlining the leaves and the flowers, just to create a little definition and detail to my background. So you notice the ink colors I used on the background were the lighter tones, while on my main focal flower I used the darker tones. Now for a little splatter, I'm using the metallic pan set, adding the pearlescent and just a little bit of the green to the leaves and the card base or the background. Once that's done, I am ready to put this together. I'm using the regular instant dimension foam tape and gluing my card background to a black card mat which measures 4¼ by 5½, and then uprooting the flower again with instant foam tape and gluing in the leaf layers and adding my sentiment there. The sentiment comes from the Stamp and Paint floral set. With that, this card is now complete, and here is a closer look at that. I want to show you the card where I used the entire botanical plaid stencil set to create this card, paired it with the new wax seal. Here I used just the die cut elements to create another card. Now apart from that, here's another card with just the craft of flower peony, pairing it with the embossing folder that's part of the release. And this is the card I created using the Mini Delights set. Here's something with the Find Joy in the Little Things stencil. This card is using the Builder Garden Climbing Clematis. I have then created this using the stencil art, pairing it with the new wax seal again. This is with the Stamp and Paint floral clusters and the new watercolor tubes that were released last month. Here's something with the Sulfur Cosmos embossing folder colored in with markers. And this one is using the Project Kit Honeycomb Haven. I have two cards with that, and I've just used all the elements, paired it with that bubbly bead I said. This is with the Creative Cuts swing set, and here's one card with the hazelnuts and the pistachios, and one with just the leaves from the pistachios, and both of these have that wax seal element paired with the new wax beads. Do check out the description box below for the entire supply list, and since this is a video hop, do hop along, leave comments on every designer's video, and until the next time, take care and bye-bye.